Hey, hey! There's a cat in my pants. Hey! What are you doing in there? Little cat. I don't know how to get him out. Hi! Hi! So the Jaguar XJS, to me one of the sleekest, meanest, coolest looking Jags ever built, and the reason for that is of course these long sleek lines that you have that's typical for this era of Jaguar design. And today we are going to modernize it and make it even sleeker. And how are we going to do that? Well, that's a good question because it's already very, very sleek, but removing these bumpers, in this case, I actually kind of like these bumpers. They fit the style of this car, and they kind of blend well into the design, even though they are old school bumpers that stick out a bit. I wouldn't mind having them on my Jag. Rosie, you're not allowed up here at the moment. So we're gonna remove those and sleek this whole front part out, and then have some curvature going down right here that continues like this, and just have one sleek body panel all around. I'm also going to change these wheels into these old British wire wheels. I think you know what I'm talking about. I think that would look perfect on this car. And we're also going to change the color, of course, and make it into, you guessed it, British racing green. So let's jump into the redesign of this beautiful XJS, and let's see how this is going to turn out. The XJS was introduced in 1975 and was in production all the way up to 1996, and that made it the longest running production model of any Jaguar in history, with almost 21 years before it was replaced by the XK8. And the XJS, of course, was replacing the Jaguar E-Type. It was available as a coupe or a convertible. All of them, of course, had V12 engines ranging from 3.6 liter all the way up to 5.3 liter, and yes, you could have it with a 5-speed manual. I don't think there's anything cooler than a V12 hooked up to a manual transmission. The design itself was developed by a man named Malcolm Sayer, and he was not a car designer. He was an aircraft engineer who later joined Jaguar to work on aerodynamics. And some of his work include the C-Type, also known as the XK120, which is a gorgeous car, the D-Type, the early stages of the E-Type, which has become an icon, and then of course the E-Type replacement, which is this XJS. He actually started working on the replacement for the E-Type as early as 1967, although the XJS wasn't officially launched until 1975, and that's 5 years after Malcolm Sayer's death, so he never got to see his latest creation being built. And in 1978, the Italian legendary designers at Pininfarina revealed a concept called the Jaguar XJ Spider. And to me, this looks like a combination of a 90s Corvette and a Jaguar. I think it's really cool because it doesn't feel like a 70s car to me. This looks more like 90s, early to mid 90s car. And it's kind of sad that they never put this into production. I'm gonna treat this redesign as if, think of it as a final facelift after the last facelift of the XJS. What kind of design trends were happening in the mid to late 90s? To me, I know that the bumpers were slowly disappearing and becoming more integrated in the design. The chrome trim on certain parts were disappearing, and you also had the front of the car being closer to the ground. You also have the lights, such as the indicators and the headlights, being more integrated in the body of the car itself. Now, while I'm gonna do all these changes, I still want to keep some of the vintage feel to this car. So that's why I'm gonna add some wire rims to this car. I think they will fit this car perfectly, because to me the wire rims are very British, and it kind of symbolizes the British racing heritage. You got them on the MGBs, the Triumphs, and even the E-Types. And I want to carry that over to the XJS as well. So what are some of the other design features used by Jaguar throughout history? And to me, one of the most important things is, of course, the oval grille. I went back and forth if I wanted to implement that or not, because the overall feel of this design is kind of sharp. There are a lot of sharp edges and sharp corners in this car, and especially if you look at the top grille, and having a lower grille that's oval, that might disturb the harmony of the design. So I actually tried both ways. I liked both, but I still wanted to go with the traditional oval, so that's what I went with in the end, and that's what you're gonna see as a final result in this rendering. But that's all a matter of taste. It kind of depends on how you see the overall design of this car, whether you like that or not. Another thing to update this design and make it more modern is to integrate the front indicators into the bumper itself and not have them be separate lights that you kind of screw on the bumper. So I wanted to integrate those, but still make them very simple in the shape. So I kept them just following the curvature of the front bumper and have them be rectangular. And also not have them be clear, because I want the orange color of a 80s, 90s car. I still want that color in the indicator itself. This is all a fine balance between how modern do we want to take this design and how much do we want to hold back to kind of stick to the vintage feeling of the car. When I do these redesigns, what I like to do is to keep the original shape, but work on the details. You can think of it as a resto mod or something like that. So it's an old car, styling wise, it's an old car, but technology wise, it's more up to date. And if I could choose any cars I want, these are the type of cars that I would drive and own. I'd much rather have one of these instead of a brand new, let's say, XKR or Aston Martin. Although the new Vantage is a fantastic looking car, I will admit that, and one of those cars that I would love to have just sitting around on a turntable and I can look at it for hours and hours. But if it's not an Aston Martin Vantage, I still would prefer this old XJS with some modern touches to it. I don't think the XJS got the same attention as the E-Type did, and that's kind of sad because I really love this car and I love the way it looks. But they launched it in the wake of a fuel crisis, so the market for a 5.3 liter V12 engine was not huge, and people were starting to look for smaller engines and better fuel consumptions, and I think that affected the sales and the overall image of the XJS. And once the market had adjusted and we're starting to come back to bigger engines, this model was already kind of old. So I think the timing of when they launched this car was unfortunate, but at the same time, that means that you can pick these up for a pretty good deal right now, and I think these will increase in value as time goes on. It's not like they were slow cars. They had a V12 and they did 0 to 60 in 7.6 seconds with a top speed of 230 kilometers an hour, which was comparable to the Italian sports cars of that time. So performance wasn't an issue and styling was definitely not an issue. And I personally first saw this car in a Tupac video back in 94 or 95. Yes, I'm that old. And I thought it was the coolest looking car. He had this one, and then he had a black SL500 R129, which is also one of my favorite cars of all time, and the styling of that car is absolutely flawless in my opinion. It's the ultimate cruiser, and I might take the challenge and do a redesign of an R129 SL500 sometime in the future. Well, that's definitely going to be a huge challenge for sure. So we're coming to an end of this redesign, and the one final touch that I want to do is, of course, change the color from silver to British racing green. I think that fits this car perfectly, as with any Jaguar or Aston Martin for that matter. I had a lot of fun redesigning this Jag, and I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed making this video. If you like these kind of videos, check out my playlist called Car Makeovers. I'm gonna link it up in the corner right here. It's gonna pop up one of those eyes with some little info graphics up there in the corner. You can click that and go check out the other redesign videos. I have a huge challenge set for myself to create more of these videos throughout the month of May, and you will decide which cars I'm going to redesign by just commenting below. The ones that get the most likes, I'm going to add that to my list of cars to redesign, and I'm going to go through all of them, no matter how much I love the car myself or no matter how big of a challenge it is. I'm going to take the cars with the most likes and redesign them into something cool. As a final note, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. These last couple of months have just been incredible for my channel, and I've had so much fun starting this new series of redesigning cars, both new and old. If you want to learn about analog sketching and how to sketch cars using pen and paper, Check out my older videos. I have a bunch of tutorials on how to sketch using pen, paper, and markers. It's relaxing to just pick up the pen and do something different. So try that out and let me know what you think. One final touch that I'm going to make to this car is what I mentioned before, is to make the grille into an oval to have that Jaguar trademark in the front. I do like both of these grills. I think the first version looks a little bit better with the XJS, but at the same time I want to see how it looks with an oval as well. I'm TheSketchMonkey. I hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. I hope to see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.